And just
Your show will
assume.
go live in 5 seconds. Four, three, two, one.
All right, well, Kufar Akbar, everybody, welcome once again to another edition of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. We are here on Blog Talk Radio and the Global Picture Radio Network every Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and on Sundays also at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We also are live streaming over on Facebook, on the Dr. Eric Smith Facebook page and the Cross and the Crescent discussion group Facebook page, and also, of course, everybody here that is in chat that participates on this show. Well, you guys know that we're here. Okay, so tonight we're going to be doing something that we haven't done for quite a while, and that is focus in on a book. And the reason why is because it's a timely book. We're gonna do a book, not a book report. What is the word we're looking for? Book review. Is that
Review?
And review, that's more of an accurate terminology. So we're going to do a book review. Now, just before we get going and we get all up in front of ourselves tonight, and we have these dreams of staying here until 10 o'clock, I'm going to tell you right now, we can't do it tonight. We got to be out of here at 6:30 firm. I have a couple meetings that I got to make tonight that I just absolutely, positively have to be there. And so we can't go any longer than that. So what we got to do rather quickly. And what I've done, of course, is I've put together a slideshow. I've always put together slideshows. But what this is going to be on tonight is going to be on the latest book published by the author, Kenny Bomer, the Imam Javan out Islam out of Houston, Texas. And the reason why we're doing that is because he just recently released his second edition of this book. Now, over here, I went through his first edition. It's been 2 years, I think. It's been a while since I've done that. And to be honest, it was just painful. It's just painful reading that type of stuff. And so what I thought, I'll go in there and I'll just bring it up on Kindle and try reading through it again. And it just hurts to read through somebody who is so angry at the world, so angry at his country. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take a couple excerpts out of that book. We're going to analyze some of the things that he wrote in there, and maybe try to look for some of the motivations of why he would write some of these things. So of course I had to make a good gift here. I actually put some effort into this one. I thought we got that because the thing that kind of jumped off on this is when I was reading his initially looking at the book. On the first page, he's already criticizing Trump. I mean, he is all on Trump right from the get-go. You don't even get off the first page. And this is what I'm gonna show you. So what I thought I would do is I thought I would just include a little Trump picture here with the dumpster fire that is his book. And if you want to really look at why his justification is for considering Islam, it's because the United States sucks, don't you know? That's his whole justification. If you want to get right down to it, his reason why somebody needs to consider Islam is because the United States sucks. The United States is a racist, bigoted, hateful nation, always has been. It's exploited every single people group on the planet at one time or another, enriched itself at their expense, and we need to be taken down. And the way to do that is to, well, bring in Islam and everything will be just hunky-dory, according to the Imam. Unfortunately, it never works out that way, because if you replace one tyrant, you normally get what? Yes, you normally get a second tyrant. So let's take a look at what we got going here. He claims that his book was the #1 bestseller on the Amazon list for, well, I don't know. They got all kinds of lists. You got lists for, left-handed lawnmowers or whatever. I don't know. But when I pulled it up, because his was always saying, well, in comparative religion books, I'm #1. Okay, well, that's not what Amazon's saying. So this was at 2:30 yesterday. I took this screenshot. And I got to thinking, you know what? Because he said, well, we debuted at #1 on the 28th. And I thinking, okay, well, if you were #1 a week ago and you're 941 now, let's just see what one day. So I looked today, and look what happened today. He went from 941 today. He's dropped 500 points on that. And in the Kindle, he went down over, 150, 160 there. And religious studies, another 100 or so. So, when you debut your book, I guess debuting it and you can get it at number, way to go. Power to you.
Okay, so let me clarify this, a few points on this. One, he said that of new releases. Now, the reason why he was at #1 for new releases is because certain people like me, Eric, and other people had actually ordered his book. We should not have done that, whether it's on Kindle or hard copy, because, well, I actually did join his pre-launch team or whatever.
Well, he said you didn't. That's why he's
No,
not
I
sending
did.
you the book.
Yeah, he said I didn't, but I did. Okay, he doesn't know I did, but
He's trying to scam you out of a book, huh?
yeah, that's how I got the
Not a man of his
PDF.
word?
That's how I got the PDF. Yeah. So if anybody wants the PDF, I got the PDF. I will share it with you, and I will face all consequences. Even if Crescent is against pirating or stealing any copyright information, I am speaking of my own accord, and I will share it with you, and I will suffer all consequences.
Okay, we'll make sure you send it to me, Rad, because I just got it on the Kindle.
Yeah, delete that from your Kindle. But no. So, dude, I mean, seriously, okay, 5 of us or 6 of us, and plus he probably had a couple mods that did it as well. But no, we boosted him up. You know what I mean?
I'm going to show you those. I'm going to show those reviews here, Rad.
All right. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, all this started. We wouldn't have done this show, but I glanced at his book. And when I glanced at his book, the first page, I noticed that he had, and I'll show you here in a second, but he was complaining about Donald Trump. Of course, he complains. I mean, I would like to go in there and do a word search and find out how many times Trump's name comes up.
Doing it now.
Okay. I mean, it's when they talk about TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. That's your poster child there. That's somebody that he definitely needs some help. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not just the biggest fan of Donald Trump.
128 times. 128 times.
Yeah, me either, Eric.
Hold on just a second. How many pages are in this book? No. All right, we got 241 pages. And how many times did you say? Rad, how many times did you say it came up?
128 locations.
Oh my gosh. So that's like once every other page. He's got Trump. He's complaining
Pretty
about
much.
Trump. Oh my gosh. Connie, you were saying something. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you that I don't agree everything about Trump either. Though I did vote for him the second time.
Right. Well, I mean, and it's kind of a love-hate thing, and I don't want to make this about Trump, but what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to illustrate that his hatred for Trump is just oozing out of his pores.
Yeah, it's
Um,
pathetic.
Well, I think it's a part of the American ethic
And
is that we can have dissent. We're allowed to say we disagree with our leaders. That's the rules of this particular country and other countries. So you can say I agree with certain things and disagree with certain things. Being nuanced is good.
sure. And Kinney and all of them say it's a Muslim ban. It wasn't a Muslim ban. He banned countries where terrorists have come from. That's what he banned. And they keep on saying it's a Muslim ban. No, it's not, because
Well,
if it was a Muslim ban, we would have kicked them all out.
well,
That's what Kenny
That's
believes.
what-
Our Muslims are
that's what
terrorists.
makes that's what makes good media is to call
Oh,
it a
yeah.
Well,
Propaganda.
that's why they call it.
Yeah.
It's propaganda, but there was also, South Korea's banned. I'm sorry, North
Yeah,
Korea was banned.
Venezuela was banned too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or-
So we're talking
Colombia,
countries that had nothing to do with Islam, and they just don't want you to know that.
Yeah, but the Muslim countries were also he was just enforcing what Obama didn't enforce. Those were his countries on his list.
Amen, Cleo.
And yes, that is a fact. Is that this document that Trump put through was written by Obama's team.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I
it
didn't realize
was.
that. I
Yes.
didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If you if you look at the countries that they prohibited people from immigrating from, the reason why is that our State Department did not have relations with those countries, or the country. I mean, like Libya, there's no government there. Somalia, there's no government there. So these countries, of course you're going to ban immigration from these countries. Or Syria, you cannot demonstrate who is who coming from those countries. So it is a security issue, and he was right to do it. But of course, you're going to get the race baiting crowd saying, "Oh, well, you're just a racist. You hate people that are brown, or you hate people who are not like you." You shut up.
If you get into Kenny's book, okay, it's very clearly who he identifies with, and that is the supposed. That's what he puts in there. Supposed quote unquote terrorists, the jihadis, the radicals, etc. So what he writes in his book, okay, that this is going to be a problem for Muslims. Well, yeah, Trump was a problem for certain Muslims, like al-Baghdadi, yeah. And like the guy Soleimani from Soleimani, yeah, I agree. He definitely was a problem for ISIS and Shia terrorist Muslims. Okay, so but that's who Kenny identifies with. I can only assume that because of the writings of his work. But let's continue on because Eric, I don't mean to push you, but you said you're on a time.
Okay, you're right. Okay, I got to go. All right. So So we went over the email. We went over this email that I had sent him on Sunday, saying that you're wrong. Roosevelt did not own slaves. Lincoln did not own slaves. And of course he comes back and he starts with the insults and then tries to, school me on what the Emancipation Proclamation. We did all this on Sunday. And the bottom line is that he did not know what he was talking about. And I basically took him to task. And then of course, the last thing he's got to do is he's got to call me a bigot, because that when you lose an argument, that's what you have to do, is call somebody a name. And that's exactly what he did. You're a bigot. Okay, whatever, Kenny. All right, but right here is where he says Theodore Roosevelt, all of whom owned slaves, because he was complaining about Mount Rushmore. And up here saying that, where was it? It was Trump. What was it? Effects of manipulation. I can't. I should have done a better job of underlining. But he was blaming Trump for celebrating the 4 people on Mount Rushmore. Now, if you look at who the people on Mount Rushmore were, they were George Washington, who, by the way, did what with his slaves upon his death, Rad?
He freed them all contingent on the death of his wife, Martha, and Martha, being a very smart woman, quickly realized to free all the slaves. And most of them continued to work on the plantation for wages because, according to several accounts that we have documented, they were pretty much decent people, and they did not mistreat. Now, don't get me wrong, a slave is a slave. You can't leave the plantation, but they were definitely given freedoms and rights. And then once they were free, they wanted to continue to work for the Washington estate. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, it's a very interesting story. But yeah, freed the slaves. Muhammad never freed the slaves.
Okay, but when we look at Washington, we look at what Washington did. The guy is given the nickname, the title of Father of Our Country. And here's the guy that led us through the Revolutionary War. Here's the guy that led the Constitutional Convention. Here is the guy at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War. They offered to make him a king, and he told them, "You're crazy. We just fought a whole war to get rid of a king, and you want to make me one?" Here is the guy that set every precedent that a president follows today. So this is a guy that is a very important figure to our country, but don't you know he's a racist, don't you see? So we can't celebrate George Washington. Next guy.
Wait, hold on. Before you get to Jefferson, let me just share the screen here. I'm sharing my screen. Can you? I'm showing you mine. You know. I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
Okay. I got to make it bigger for you guys because I'll be blind and stuff. Okay. So speaking of George Washington, like I said, he freed the slaves on his death. Here is what the Sahih Hadith say about Muslims freeing slaves upon their deaths. Okay, and I made it bigger, so I'm going to scroll up here. Okay.
Okay.
I can't find it. Okay.
You gotta blow it.
Yeah, sorry, we're not very professional here. Actually, I think I gotta scroll down. Let's see here. Oh, I just had it, but I had to make it bigger. Okay, yeah. No.
That one said something about emancipated.
A slave.
If anyone emancipates a slave, hold on.
Sees 1/3 of his property.
6,
I just had it. Chapter regarding slaves on the Zena. Okay. Well, anyway, Sahih Hadith says, okay. All right. We're looking for death. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I got an idea. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I got an idea.
Brad's got an idea. Everybody hold on. Death. There we go.
A man declared that a slave would be free after his death, but he had no other property, so the Prophet ordered him to sell him. He was then sold for 700 and 900 dinars. Okay? Here we go. Another one. Okay. Well, the tradition mentioned above also is translated. Okay. Here we go. A man of the Ansar called Abu Baba declared that his slave called Yabnur would be freed after his death, but he had no other property. So the messenger of Allah called him and said, "Who will buy him?" Namundi bought him for 800 dirhams. When he handed him over, the Prophet said, now remember, he's selling it, but he's giving the money because the Prophet is, well, the Prophet also, I'm sure, took his cut. But the Prophet is giving over the money. Who's he giving out money? If any of you is poor, he should, begin from himself. If anything is left over, give it to your family. If anything is left over, give it to your relatives. If anything is left over, when they receive something, then here and here. So anyway, he forced this man. Well, he didn't force the man because it was already dead. Okay, but to sell his slave after his death, even though that was not his will. Okay, they sold this man's slave, and then he whacked up the money and gave the money. Okay, to everyone. Okay, so it wasn't even his money to begin with. It wasn't even his slaves. But anyway, okay. There's some more to this. Let's see. Sean, we sold slave mothers during the time of the Messenger of Allah and of Abu Bakr. But it was Abu Bakr when Umar was in power. He forbade us, and we stopped. Okay, and that's Sahih. Okay, all right. This is Sahih. Okay. There's other ones where it says that people sold but there's other ones where it says that people wanted to free their slaves after their death. Okay, and Muhammad actually says no. He's burning in the hellfire. He should not be buried in a Muslim grave. Hold on, let me see. Muslim cemetery. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, a man of the Ansar, said, the prophet said, if he had been present before the burial, he would not have been buried in a Muslim cemetery. Do you see that? Okay, this is a different tradition. Again, Sahi in chain. Okay, Kenny, because I know you're listening. Sahi in chain. What is this? Okay. This is saying the chapter regarding one who monuments slaves that exceed 1/3 of his property. Oh, that's a different thing. I'm sorry, that's not on his death. Okay. Oh, here we go. A man had no other property, emancipated 6 slaves, and at his time of the death, when the prophet was informed about it, he spoke severely of him. Okay, he then called them, divided them into 3 sections, cast lots among them, and emancipated 2, and kept 4 in slavery, even though it was this man's wish that his slaves should be freed after his death. Muhammad said, "No, not going to happen. We'll free 2, but we'll keep 4 in slavery." And
Wow.
here he said again, remember, this is another tradition, different chain of narration. Actually, the tradition mentioned above has also been translated by Abu Kuwalabala and Abu Zayed through a different chain of narrators to the same effect. A man of the Ansar, fill this part in. You know what I mean? Okay. The prophet said he had been present. If he had been present before his burial, he would not have been buried in a Muslim cemetery. Okay. So, yeah, George Washington freed his slaves after his death. Now, again, slavery, okay, we can say slavery is wrong now. Obviously it was, and slavery was a stain on human society, and especially the African-American slave trade was a horrible thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not diminishing that at all.
Yeah, it was evil. It was evil.
But when you compare George Washington, the founder of our country, he's not a prophet. He's not a founder of a religion. He's just a founder of a country. Okay? All right? To Kenny, and Kenny criticizes this founder, okay, because he owns slaves. Okay? Even though he's just a human being, he's not a prophet. He's just the founder of our nation. But yet Kenny here has no problem with the prophet Muhammad, okay, owning slaves, buying black African slaves, in the slave trade, trading slaves, and forbidding people to free their slaves after their death. I mean, what does that tell you about the moral compass of the great Imam?
Bigotry.
Exactly. Anyway, continue on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, that's right. What I was just trying to, in all fairness, his complaint is that we should not be celebrating people who have owned slaves in our country's history before. But in doing that, what you're doing is you're throwing away our nation's history that you can learn by. We don't celebrate the fact that Washington owned slaves. We don't celebrate the fact that Jefferson owned slaves. We don't celebrate the fact that many of the founding fathers owned slaves.
Right.
And if you're going to make that a standard, then one of the words that you like to talk about is called consistency. The consistency of the man, to whatever the heck you say,
defines who he is.
Right. So your consistency really shows who you are. And it begins with an H and ends with hypocrite. That's exactly what you are for making this demand of the founding fathers of our country. Now, again, nobody's saying that slavery was right in this country, but the fact of the matter is that the slavery was forced upon this country by the people who brought colonialism to this country.
By King George.
Right. And like I said, 7 of the 13 colonies banned slavery right after the Declaration of Independence was signed. And the reason why they did is because they had tried in their state assemblies previously to have slavery banned, but the king would not allow it because England was making huge snot gob oodle buckets of money off of the colonies and the slavery that was going on over here. So save you a little.
I mean, you're being kind because you haven't even addressed, this sex slave thing that Muhammad had going on. And he continued, and it is still continuing today in Islam. Yes. So if that's his reason for being upset with America, and he wants, so does Kenny want sex slavery still today?
Well, of course, he wants the Sharia, of course, because he wants the Sharia, and he claims it's in America already.
Who made a video the other day saying that they said that the Muslims said that he would want to own slaves. I don't know if it was Bob the Builder or he was talking to somebody. Yeah, it was Bob the Builder. And the Muslim was saying, yeah, I would like to own slaves. Really, it's 2021, and you make statements like that. Well, the reason why he's making statements like that is because he's trying to follow the sunnah of that that man that he calls a prophet.
Yes,
Okay.
that pervert.
Yes. Well, thank you. All right. So the next one, of course, is not George Washington. Let me just get down with George Washington. It's Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, of course, yes, was a slave owner. Thomas Jefferson, yes. If you want to sit there and say, yeah, Tommy Jeff, he had sex with his slaves.
Well, there's no proof of that. I mean, there's proof that his family, they think his brother more likely.
I was going to qualify that. I was going to qualify. Guys, you guys are vicious.
Yes, we are.
I love it. I like it when you make a statement, and you notice the difference here. Everybody wants to jump on you if you're going to say something like that. Just might not be entirely true. And then, because if you did this over in the Imam show, you know what he would be doing?
He'd block
backstage. You cannot. Yeah, he cannot stand criticism. But yes, Paul, you're absolutely right. When we start talking about Jefferson fathering a slave, there is still a lot of details that aren't there. They thought it was maybe his, like you said, maybe it was his brother, maybe it was his sons. We don't know for sure. But
everything that I recently just read up on, and I bought into the narrative that he did father slaves, but I am now in the conclusion that there is no conclusive evidence, and I would say that the evidence actually points to the opposite. Because when the accusations were first made during Jefferson's lifetime, he did refute that. He said, no, these are Federalists, because this is during the Federalist debate. This is with Hamilton and stuff like that going on. And they were vicious, dude. You talk about Trump's mean tweets. They would love Trump, okay, because they were vicious with each other. They all owned their own newspapers, okay, and they all printed out these horrendous, salacious things about each other to slander each other. Okay, and he came out. He said, "No, this is clearly, he said the Federalists are trying to slander me. There is no proof of this." The woman in the case never said that it was Jefferson, blah blah blah, or Thomas, I should say. And the DNA evidence that they have is inconclusive in the fact that it was definitely someone in his family, but there is no way to establish that it was Thomas Jefferson himself, even though they tested the samples. There's just no way.
Well, okay. The bottom line is that Jefferson owned slaves. So, do we as a country automatically stop celebrating Jefferson? The guy that brought us the Declaration of Independence, the guy that provided that language. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are endowed by their creators with certain.
The guy that railed against slavery, the guy that passed laws
exactly right
against slavery, the guy that seriously, he was an abolitionist. Go ahead.
Yeah. But when we start looking at the era and how these men perceived other human beings and how other human beings were perceived. Today, we criticize it, and there's a lot of things that we could probably say that today is absolutely wrong. For example, abortion. Abortion is widely accepted, not only in this country, but in a lot of countries. Well, does that make us, or let me rephrase that? Does that make people who supported? Let's just go ahead and space. Just travel in time 100 years forward from now. Are they going to say that all of those presidents, because they're eventually going to ban this practice? They have to. It's just so evil. But then again,
there you go.
I might okay, but the bottom line is let's say that they do finally ban it, and they say, okay, yes, it's intrinsically evil to kill another human being in the womb. They're the epitome of innocence, yada yada yada. That finally takes hold, and it changes all of society. And all of society 100 years from now says, yes, abortion is wrong. Those people who supported abortion during the 21st century, we need to take down any statue, any mention of them, because they supported abortion. Well, that would be the equivalent. That would be the equivalent of slavery. We agree today, universally, it's evil, it's wrong. Our country is still seeing and having to deal with the ramifications from it. But that does not mean that you shut down and you sit here like this guy does and says, well, we're celebrating, racist bigots in our country. Jefferson and Washington, two of the greatest presidents that our country has seen. But then look what he does. He throws in this guy. He throws Abraham Lincoln under the bus. Abraham Lincoln never owned a slave. Abraham Lincoln also has, you know what his nickname is? The Great Emancipator, the guy that led us through the Civil War, saw it through to see that slavery was finally ended in our country.
Amen.
People say, "Oh, that was for the preservation of the Union." Shut your pie hole. Learn some history. It was indeed over the preservation of the Union, but the preservation of the Union as a country that was going to be free.
Read the Republican. Read the first Republican. What do you call it? The first Republican platform of 1858, I believe. It was clearly an anti-slavery, an abolitionist.
Well, the Republican Party grew out of the Free Soil Party, which was very anti-slavery, in response to the
exactly. But if you read it, and you compare it to the Democrat platform of 1858, I believe. Okay, no, it was an abolitionist platform, plain and simple, totally, completely abolitionist.
Well,
to prevent slavery from spreading to the free states.
Right, that's what it was.
Okay, and two, to abolish slavery. No, seriously, it actually says this. It doesn't say abolish it, but it calls it an evil institution, a wicked. No, because the Confederates, the Democrats, they were calling it a noble institution, and the Republicans call it a stain. The Republican Party calls it a stain. Calls it evil institution that is stained in our land. Yeah.
We should read that sometime.
It is seriously very powerful. But Abraham Lincoln came out. He was the man. He was the abolitionist president. That's what he was elected for, as an abolitionist, plain and simple. Okay. Now, through politics and things like that, he had to wheel and deal and blah, blah, blah. And if the stupid Democrats wouldn't have started this Civil War, which we are still fighting today, I say the Civil War is not ended. It is America's longest Civil War, and we're still fighting it today. If they wouldn't have attacked us at Fort Sumter, we would have been two countries. We would have been a free state. And actually, what would happen is you would have had Haiti would have been the South Democratic states, because you know what I mean? There was no way to contain this. But anyway, I'm sorry to give a lecture to the history.
No, it's okay. This okay. This comment here by Aisha, Manasseh Musa, the richest man who ever lived, prior to Jeff Bezos, he was the king of Mali, the kingdom of Mali in the 15th century. And he was the richest man to ever live, and he made his money off of the slave trade. Now, when we start talking about the slave trade, then you start talking about, I have a slide for that. We're going to get into that, but thank you for bringing that up. You're absolutely right. All right. And then, of course, he complains about...
They made an epic rap battle of Mansa Musa versus Jeff